Hello, so I decided to wear this crown if it is in shot because I wore it last year in my best books of the year video, and I thought it would be cute to bring it back. Just why not? I don't remember why I even wore it. Anyway, so I read so many good books. Without further ado, here are all the books, and I'll try to be as concise as possible because there's so many. First off, I wanted to include these two as one because they're part of the same series, so I read Wind Witch and Psych Witch by Susan Dennard, and they are book 0.5 but also mostly 2.5 for Psych Witch and 2 in the Witchland series. And I will link down below my underrated faves video where I explain to you what Truth Witch, the first one, is all about. And I'm so excited for the third book, Blood Witch, which comes out this year. This is one of my absolute favorites, if not my favorite series at the moment, and I think Susan Dennard did such a good job at developing further her world and her characters, and especially in Psych Witch. I know a lot of people don't want to read this because it's a novella, but I think it sets up so many interesting plot points and it explains so much about some characters, so I would recommend those both. Then I don't have this because it's back at the library, but Girl Up by Laura Bates. This is kind of your young girl's very essential guidebook to feminism, and I thought it was very intersectional and accessible and just overall a very good time for any feminist. Then The Bells by Danielle Clayton. This is a fantasy novel inspired vaguely by New Orleans, and it's basically about this girl called Camille who is a belle, and in her world most people are stripped of their physical characteristics, so their skin has no color, their hair has no color or texture, all that, except the bells are born beautiful and gorgeous, and they can also alter the way everyone else looks. So Camille and her belle sisters are all kind of fighting for the position of royal belle, who will assist the queen and the royal family and everyone else that they should choose. And it's a lot about this wonderful world and what the bells are and stuff. And so I think the very basic premise is super compelling. I thought Camille was a very interesting protagonist to follow because she's good, you want to root for her, but also she just really wants this and she's willing to fight for it. And there's that internal conflict between wanting this for herself and wanting to be happy for her sisters no matter what, and it's super interesting. And the political intrigue is just phenomenally done, and the secrets are, wow, I was taken by surprise a couple of times. I look forward to the second book in the series, and also I thought it did a great analysis of the idea of beauty and society's relationship with that, and it was just a really great book, and I had the pleasure of meeting Danielle this year, which was a very special experience as well. Then we have The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. I was lucky enough to be sent an early review copy by Simon & Schuster for this early on, and as you can tell, it's really short, but I really enjoyed it. It pretty much follows this girl living in a small town by the sea. Well, she lives in the island across the town. Anyway, so it follows this girl, and every summer it is said that ever since long ago, the town killed these 3 sisters for being witches. Their spirits come back from the sea and inhabit the bodies of 3 local girls and lure men to their deaths. So when this really handsome young man stumbles in town with a mystery, Penny just kind of wants to protect him from that faith, and it starts from there, and it's really atmospheric. It feels almost as if the setting is another character inside the story. I thought the story of the sisters was super compelling. I was almost rooting for them, to be honest. I didn't love Penny as a main character, but it's fine. I didn't buy the romance, but I bought everything else, which made me in turn kind of buy the romance, or at least I was enthralled enough not to care, so that was good. And I think this is actually quite a good take on The Little Mermaid, and it takes a lot of the elements of that and applies them beautifully, and you don't even realize, so I really appreciated that, and I would highly recommend this. I finally read A Darker Shade of Magic by V. Schwab, and I started it on the plane to London on my birthday, so that was a very special experience, and it basically follows Kel, who can travel between different Londons. There's Black London that's been long destroyed by magic. There's White London that was at the border with Black London, so magic has also entered it and corrupted it, and it's like wild. There's Red London with magic and everything where Kel is from, and then there's Grey London, which is basically our London in like the 1800s. And I love this so much. I love V Shrub, I love her writing, I love the world building and the different Londons, and I love Kel as the main character, and then I love Lila Bard with my whole heart. I too would rather die on an adventure than live standing still. And I thought London itself also kind of became almost as a character in this, or you know, the Londons. And we have another Hufflepuff Slytherin duo, which I'm trapped for. The plot was great, everything was so good. I am yet to read the second book. And then we were snowed in for a hot minute, so I took the time to devour Almost Loved by Louise O'Neill. And this book is pretty much an analysis of toxic love and power dynamics and relationships of, or what we fancy to be relationships. And also it's a lot about art. Our main protagonist is a failed artist, so it's pretty much split in between two timelines. We have the present, where Sarah is in a healthier yet not very successful relationship, and she hasn't really been working on her art, and the past, where she's in a really toxic relationship with Matthew, the very rich, pretentious white male father figure of one of her students that she teaches art to. And I know everyone else has been like tied to the toxic relationship idea in the book and how it's done and everything, and I'm sure it's very well executed, but I thought that the relationship that Sarah has with her art was really interesting to follow, and I told Louise that because I had the pleasure of meeting her this year. So that was something that took her by surprise and also made her very excited to hear, thankfully. And yeah, ironically enough, my least favorite book of the year was Louise O'Neill as well, so I do need to throw that out there because my perception of this was clouded for a little while once I'd read that. But now that time has passed, I can say that this was one of the best books that I read last year, so that's good. I then read Not Lost by Sarah Maria Griffin. Sarah's debut fiction novel thing was one of my favorite books of last year, and so I decided to go back and read her memoir essay collection thing from when she left Ireland to go live in San Francisco for a while. And it was just really well written. I could see the reflection of Sarah's fiction writing in her nonfiction, which was really cool because I think her authorial voice is very unique and special, and I just really enjoy her writing style. I think Sarah is like really neat as a human being. If you want to follow her on Twitter, you should, because she's fabulous. So I have also fled the homeland for a new country, naturally. So I saw a lot of my experiences reflected, and it was really comforting. And even if you haven't shared that kind of experience, I think that this book is a really insightful look into what that might be like for some people, and it was just a really solid read. If you like nonfiction, this is definitely one that I would recommend, and if you're not into nonfiction normally but would like something accessible to start with, that's also a really good starting point. I then went to a Holly Black book signing, so I wanted to read some of her books beforehand, and I decided to start with her older ones. So I first off read and adored The Coldest Darling Called Down. This is like 2012 angsty vampire dystopian-y type. Oh, it's so good. It's very me. It's very me. I'm still not out of 2012 vampires. And there are characters with blue hair that are like vloggers, which is this really meta. Again, this felt very atmospheric, sort of, and I love the idea of a cold town. I thought that was just really captivating. I liked the decadence and the glamour of the cold towns and the old vampires. I thought our main protagonist was really feisty, and I loved the love interest because he was so fucking weird and I never knew what was going on. And so the dynamics between the two of them were really messy and weird, but in like a very compelling way. Just I really, really love this book. If we were to get a sequel now, I would love that because the ending is super open. This is just super dark and gritty, and I love it. And then I also read and loved The Darkest Part of the Forest, and this pretty much follows a set of twins, and in the town that they live, there is like a border with fairylands and magical forest, and there's a coffin made of glass where this fair prince is incarcerated almost. It's like the Sleeping Beauty, but then the coffin gets broken and like stuff happens, and I thought it was so good. Again, the world building, it's just so atmospheric and entrancing, and it's just beautiful. And the writing style is fabulous, the characters are amazing. I liked how it took some fairy tale elements and then spun them around to make them more modern, and I think Holly Black can do no wrong. I love her so much, and this is set in the same world as The Cruel Prince, so I wanted to read this before reading that, which I am yet to do. There might be a slight angle change because I wanted to check if I was still recording. I do apologize. I then read and loved a manuscript of The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and that's the first novel following Xiomara as she's growing up and like falling in love and trying to find her voice as a slam poet. And it dwells with body image and society's impact on how you treat your body and your relationship with it. And it's about religion and family, finding your voice, first love. It's so well written, and I love Elizabeth, and I'm dying to read anything else she ever writes because she's absolutely fabulous. And this was a very solid debut, and I've been pitching it a lot in the shop as well. And read Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shannon McGuire, and that's the sequel to Every Heart a Doorway. It's also kind of a prequel, more of, and it follows Jack and Jill back in their world. It's about this set of twins who grew up to very kind of controlling type A parents that don't really love each other and all that. And one day they just find this magical door and enter, and they end up in the moors, and one of them stays with like a vampire and the other goes with a mad scientist. And it's so kooky and wild and magical, and I love it. Again, it's super dark, super atmospheric, and it's so also character driven, and it dwells with gender, performance, and again, following the path your parents set out for you, but maybe straying from that because you're your own person. And it's about sisterhood, and it's just like, it's so good. It's so good. Next one is a bit of a controversial one because it's very hit or miss, and I can definitely see why and how it is problematic, but I personally loved it, and that's Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. And this basically is the companion sequel thing to Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, except this time is from Leah's point of view, and she's, you know, fat, Jewish, poor, bisexual, all those things, and I loved it so much. There's this one scene where her and her mother go prom dress shopping, and things like happen because the dress is pretty, but like, does she really want to spend a fortune that they don't have on that? She's just not in a good headspace regardless of the dress thing, so she just ends up sobbing her heart out. It's like, I don't want it. And I felt so in touch with that scene. All of it was really like, it was a good book, but that whole scene just clicked with me in a way nothing has in a long time. So I then read Dear Martin by Nick Stone, and this is a Black Lives Matter novel about this teen who gets harassed by police and then decides to implement the teachings of Martin Luther King into his life and see if that kind of shifts his experience of the world. And he's also attending like a posh school where people are just racist and dumbasses, and also coming from not a posh background, so there is also that duality of his identity that we see with Star in The Hate You Give. So I would definitely say if you enjoyed that, you might enjoy this. It's a lot shorter than I Hate You Give. I think I read it in like one sitting, and it was just, oh, it's so powerful, and it stuck with me. I also read Words in Deep Blue by Kat Crowley, and this is the story of a girl who comes back to her hometown after her brother died, and she kind of has to get used to that life again and the people she used to be close with, but she's not anymore. And this boy she kind of confessed her love to, or so she thinks, but he hasn't reciprocated, and he used to be her best friend and they're not friends anymore. And it's just, oh, it's so dark but so beautiful. The guy's parents owned a bookstore and then they divorced, and the dad stayed in charge of the bookstore and they kind of lived there as well. And the girl gets assigned a job at the bookstore because they're trying to get a catalog of all the books because they want to sell. This whole thing, and again, it's like about grief and friendship and growing up and books. I love books that are about books and people's love of books, and it was just a really beautiful story. I also read all the Crazy Rich Asian books by Kevin Kwan, and this is basically about Rachel and Nick, who've been together for like a while. And then Nick invites Rachel to his best friend's wedding, and they fly over to Singapore, and lo and behold, Nick has been like Singaporean royalty forever, and Rachel never knew, and shit ensures. There's a film out, it's so good. The books are so ridiculous and fabulous, and I've been yelling at everyone about them all. They just get crazier and crazier and crazier, and I adore them. I think the writing style is super smart and super funny. It's just a good time. I also read Tangleweed and Brian by Deidre Sullivan, and this is a collection of short stories that are feminist, twisted, dark, modern retellings of fairy tales. What could be better? They're the kind of things that you want to consume very slowly to analyze them because there's so much to unpack, and they're just the kind of things I would love to do a literary analysis of because they're so smart and I love D. And there are illustrations by Karen Vaughn sprinkled throughout, and they're wonderful and dark and add so much more depth to the story. And I also have this in my underrated faves video if you want to check that out. I also read In the Country We Love by Diane Guerrero, and this is a memoir of Diane, who you might know from her acting on Jane the Virgin and The New Black, and it's basically about her life once her illegal immigrant parents got deported when she was a kid, and how she kind of fell through the cracks of the system and got moved from friend to friend and had to grow up without her parents in this country that didn't fully accept her, and where she came from even though she was a citizen. And it's about mental health and her struggles with it because of this, and also feeling alienated from her parents because she just didn't have the time with them once she was growing up. And it's so visceral and raw, and it's such a powerful book, and I cannot recommend it enough if you think you can stomach it. I then, on a very different note, read When Dimple Met Rishi by Sanya Menon, and this is a YA contemporary about Dimple and Rishi, who are two teens from Indian families, and they have been arranged to be married one day. So Dimple is really into IT, so she goes to this contest camp thing, and lo and behold, Rishi is there as well, except when he approaches her, because she knows nothing about the whole arranged marriage thing, she just spills her coffee on him. And it's about them trying to be friends, or at least civil, despite like what arranged marriage, you know. And Rishi really wants to go through with it because he wants to be a good son and he respects tradition, and Dimple is just really not for tradition. And it's about identity and family and culture and growing up and young love, and they're so soft. And again, you feel like this is a Hufflepuff Slytherin pairing, which I really love. And Rishi realizes that maybe he actually wants to be an artist, and so he has to process that. It's just such a wonderful book, and I can see different parts of myself in both of them, even though they're so different. So it was really wholesome. And I don't think you have enough books about characters that are in between high school and college, so this was very refreshing. And I think this is where I leave you off, because this is already long and I have so many more books left and I need to get to work. So thank you very much